I want you to take a second and just imagine a typical classroom.
Okay.
You've got, what, 30 kids, art on the walls, a teacher trying to keep everyone on task. What if I told you that in that room, there's a group of kids struggling with a totally preventable developmental disorder?
Right.
But, and here's the catch, nearly 87% of them are basically invisible to the medical system.
It's a staggering statistic. I mean, to be precise, the data says 86.5% of kids with fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, FASD, are either misdiagnosed or just missed completely. They're right there in front of us, struggling, but we're looking right past the actual cause.
That number, 86.5%, it absolutely stopped me in my tracks when I was going through this stack of research. It's a massive failure rate.
Oh, it's huge.
If we were missing that many diabetes cases, there'd be an uproar. But with this, it's silence. And that's really the theme of what we're unpacking today. We're doing a deep dive into the Carlett Child Psychiatry Report. We've got interviews with top experts, Dr. Ira Chasnoff, Dr. Marilyn Jones. And I realized pretty fast we aren't just talking about, medical definition.
No, not at all. We're talking about visibility. We're talking about the difference between what a patient looks like on the outside and what's actually happening inside their brain.
Right.
We're going to uncover these invisible cognitive challenges in FASD, the surprising mental health side of Down syndrome that just shatters the stereotypes, and the huge role of implicit bias.
How our own assumptions might be the biggest barrier.
Exactly.
It's heavy stuff, but it's so fascinating. We're going to look at how a doctor phrases a question can change everything. But let's start with that 86.5% number, fetal alcohol spectrum disorders.
Right.
Now, I'll admit, when I hear that, I picture something really specific, physical traits.
And that's where everybody starts.
Yeah.
It's exactly why so many of these kids are missed. You're probably thinking of FAS, fetal alcohol syndrome.
Yes, exactly.
That's the most severe end of the spectrum. That's where you see the classic physical signs, the facial features, the growth problems. They're smaller than their peers.
That's the textbook image I have in my head.
But here's the thing that Dr. Chasnoff really hammers home in this report. FAS is just one small slice of a very big pie. The spectrum part of FASD is enormous.
Okay.
The vast majority of these kids actually have what's called ARND, alcohol-related neurodevelopmental disorder.
And the difference is?
And here's the kicker. These kids look completely typical.
Wait. So let me get this straight. Normal height, normal weight, no facial features that would tip anyone off.
Precisely. They physically look like every other child in that classroom we imagined. But their brains have been fundamentally altered. And because they don't look the part, nobody thinks to ask the right question.
Okay, so if they're not being diagnosed with FASD, what are they being diagnosed with? Because they are obviously struggling with something.
Oh, yeah. They get labeled with everything else in the book. ADHD, bipolar disorder, oppositional defiant disorder. I mean, if you think about it, it makes sense, right?
It does.
You see a kid who's impulsive, can't focus, has mood swings. You reach for the ADHD checklist. But the root cause, the alcohol exposure, it's never identified.
So if it looks like ADHD, why does it matter what we call it? Does the label really change the treatment?
It changes everything. The brain mechanisms are different. Dr. Chasnoff points out that ADHD meds target very specific neurotransmitters for focus, but the brain damage from alcohol it's diffuse, it's widespread, it hits 3 specific areas: neurocognition, self-regulation, and adaptive functioning.
Adaptive functioning. That sounds a little jargony. What does that actually look like in the real world?
It's basically street smarts.
Yeah.
It's the ability to apply what you know to daily life. You can have a kid who's brilliant at memorizing facts but can't figure out a bus schedule.
I see.
Dr. Chasnoff mentions this documentary Moment to Moment. It's about a woman with an IQ of 125.
125. That's gifted territory.
Exactly. Technically, she is brilliant, but she cannot tell time. She can't read an analog clock.
That is wild. A high IQ, but you can't tell time.
That's the classic ARND disconnect. High IQ, low adaptive quotient. If you just give her a standard test, you'd say she's fine. But in the real world, she's drowning. And people just think she's being difficult or lazy.
That's heartbreaking. So if these kids look normal and the tests might miss it, how on earth does a doctor catch this?
It all comes down to getting the history. You have to know about the exposure, but that's incredibly hard because of the shame.
Right. I mean, you can't just ask a pregnant woman, are you drinking? The answer is always going to be no.
It's a closed door. It feels like an accusation. So Dr. Chasnoff developed this screening tool, and the specific phrasing is, well, it's psychological genius.
Okay, I'm listening. What's the magic phrase?
He asks, in the month before you knew you were pregnant, How much beer, wine, or liquor were you drinking?
Before you knew. Wow.
Right.
That is clever.
It changes the whole dynamic. It normalizes it.
Right.
It acknowledges that a lot of people drink before they even know they've conceived.
So it removes that immediate wall of shame.
It does. The patient can say, oh, well, before I knew, yeah, I was having a glass of wine with dinner. And once that door is open, just a crack.
The doctor can step through and get the real history.
Exactly.
Speaking of assumptions, the report brought up a really uncomfortable point about who even gets screened.
Yes. This is where implicit bias becomes a real, measurable problem. The data shows doctors are much more likely to test Black women for drug use.
But
But they often fail to ask white, non-Hispanic women about alcohol, even though the stats show that white women, especially in higher socioeconomic brackets, have higher rates of alcohol use during pregnancy.
so we're over-policing one group and completely ignoring the risk in another, all based on stereotypes.
And the result is a generation of kids, that 86.5% getting the wrong help because we aren't asking the right questions to the right people. It's a failure of curiosity.
Well, speaking of failures of curiosity, let's pivot to another group that faces a mountain of assumptions. People with trisomy 21, or Down syndrome.
This is another case where the visible diagnosis, the physical features, can actually obscure the internal reality.
Yeah, I think we all have this cultural stereotype in our heads.
Yeah.
Happy, social, loves music.
Yeah.
It's almost a benevolent stereotype.
It is, but those can be just as dangerous. The source is very clear. The myth that people with trisomy 21 are always happy is just that, a myth.
They feel the whole range of emotions.
The whole range. They get sad, they get anxious, and they get really disheartened when they're excluded.
So when we just assume they're happy, we might be missing serious signs of depression.
We are. It's called diagnostic overshadowing. A doctor sees a withdrawn child with Down syndrome and thinks, oh, that's just part of the condition. They don't see the depression. The rates of comorbidities are high depression, anxiety, ADHD, even autism.
I was surprised to see autism on that list. I didn't realize you could have both.
You absolutely can. And can you imagine how hard that is to diagnose? If a child with Down syndrome is nonverbal, everyone just assumes it's the Down syndrome. They miss the autism completely.
And the child misses out on therapies that could actually help.
Exactly.
There was one fact in this section that really, it really scared me. It was about aging.
The dementia risk. Yes. This is something every family needs to know. Over half of individuals with trisomy 21 will develop dementia, specifically Alzheimer's.
And it happens so much earlier.
Much earlier, often in their 40s or 50s.
Is there a biological reason for that?
There is. It's genetic. The gene for the amyloid precursor protein, the thing that forms plaques in Alzheimer's, is on chromosome 21.
And they have 3 copies of chromosome 21.
So they're biologically overproducing that protein their entire lives. It's a harsh reality of the genetics.
So knowing all this,
Mm-hmm.
the depression, the dementia risk,
Yeah.
how do you treat it?
Well, the experts advise caution with MIS. The phrase is start low and go slow. Their systems are really sensitive. But before you even get to the prescription pad, the first step is relationship-based interventions.
What does that mean exactly?
It means looking at their life. Are they lonely? Is their environment causing sensory overload? One case study mentioned a depressed teenager where the treatment was just planning a better social life, giving him purpose.
Connection is medicine.
It's so powerful, and it goes back to what we were saying. You have to look at the person, not just the syndrome.
I want to introduce another character from our deep dive, Dr. Marilyn Jones. She's like a genetic Sherlock Holmes.
She is. She works in dysmorphology, the study of worth defects. And she's brilliant at connecting the physical clues to the psychiatric ones.
She talks about something called 22q deletion syndrome. I'd never heard of it.
It's actually pretty common, about 1 in 4,000 births. It used to be called DeGeorge syndrome. And the physical signs can be really subtle, maybe hypernasal speech or long fingers.
So why is this in a child psychiatry report?
Here's the connection. About 20 to 30% of people with 22q develop major psychiatric problems in their teens, specifically schizophrenia and anxiety.
Wow, that's a huge correlation.
It is. Dr. Jones basically argues that if a teen shows up with new onset schizophrenia, you should be checking for 22q.
And here's where it gets really interesting to me. The difference in how parents react to a 22q diagnosis versus, say, an FASD diagnosis.
It's the stigma divide. It's night and day. When a parent hears genetics, 22q, Dr. Jones says she sees relief.
Relief.
Yes, because it's biology. It's a missing piece of DNA. It's not their fault. It explains everything without assigning blame.
It's not bad parenting, it's biology.
Precisely. But with alcohol exposure, it's all shame and guilt. And that stigma is so powerful that it prevents the diagnosis in the first place.
And Dr. John said something I just love. She said, kids haven't read the book about how it's supposed to go.
That quote is perfect, isn't it? Doctors will predict these grim futures. They won't talk, they won't work, but the kids prove them wrong all the time.
The biggest limit is our own low expectations.
Often, yes.
Which is the perfect transition. These kids grow up, they become adults, and then you hit this thorny issue of decision-making. We have a case study here of Tony.
Right, Tony. He's 17, a gamer, has autism and depression. He's doing well on his meds, but he tells his parents, when I'm 18, I'm stopping.
A classic dilemma. He's about to be a legal adult. So what do? Do the parents just take over?
Historically, yes. That's guardianship or conservatorship. It's the most restrictive option. A court basically says you can't decide for yourself anymore.
That strips away all their autonomy.
It does. It's like a civil death.
Yeah.
So there's a middle ground. Limited conservatorship. Maybe Tony can vote, but his parents handle his medical choices.
But the report pushes for a third, more modern option.
It does. Supported decision-making, or SDM. This is the rights-based approach. Tony keeps his rights. He doesn't lose his legal standing. Instead, he builds a team parents, a counselor, to help him understand his choices.
So instead of someone deciding for him, they help him decide for himself. But how do you actually do that?
The report has some really great practical tips. One I loved was using statements instead of questions.
Give me an example of that.
Instead of asking, why are you sad? Which can feel like an interrogation.
A lot of pressure.
A lot of pressure. You just say, I don't know why you are sad.
It's an invitation.
It is. It invites them to fill in the blank. And for Tony, they used visual aids. They literally drew a flowchart. Meds, happy, gaming, school, versus no meds, can't game.
So they laid it out visually, logically.
And seeing it like that helped him choose for himself. He stayed on the meds, not because he was forced, but because he understood. That's the goal.
That's incredibly empowering. Okay, before we wrap, we have to hit the research updates. Quick hits. What stood out?
2 things, one good, one bad. On the good side, topiramate. We know antipsychotics like aripiprazole can cause a lot of weight gain in kids.
Which is a huge reason for them to stop taking their meds.
For sure. A study in Iran found that topiramate helped reduce that weight gain by about 8 pounds compared to placebo.
8 pounds is a big deal for a teenager.
It's a huge deal. And the bad news was about vortioxetine, an antidepressant.
What happened there?
An industry-funded study looked at it for adolescents. It didn't really work better than placebo, and more alarmingly, there was a 15% rate of suicidal ideation in the kids taking it.
15%. That seems incredibly high.
It is. The verdict from the experts was clear. Do not recommend this for kids. Stick to the proven options.
Good to know. Okay, we have covered so much ground today, from the invisible nature of FASD to the emotional lives of people with Down syndrome, and finally, fighting for Tony's right to choose.
You know, the thread connecting all of it is what Dr. Jones said about the cottage after cottage of warehouse individuals she saw in the past. We used to just put people away because we assumed they had no potential.
We saw the diagnosis, not the person.
And what the science is showing us now is that low expectations are the real barrier. When we get the correct diagnosis and provide the right support, like supported decision-making,
Outcomes change.
drastically. People can work, they can love, they can live full lives, but only if we see them clearly.
And that brings us to our final thought for you, the listener. We talked a lot about implicit bias today.
We did, and the report notes that bias isn't usually about being mean. It's often about kindly phrased, lower expectations.
The teacher who doesn't challenge a student because it might be too hard for them.
Or the doctor who doesn't ask about alcohol because they don't want to embarrass the patient.
So here's our question for you to think about this week. Where might you be underestimating someone's capacity simply because their brain works a little differently than yours?
Are you protecting them or are you holding them back? A question worth asking.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll catch you next time.